It's Gripe Session time with your host, George Wonica.
It's about nothing.
Discussing everything from real estate, current events, a little bit of everything, and the annoying little things that just tick you off.
You can't handle the truth.
What? You didn't know?
Here's your host, George Wonica.
Your ass better call somebody.
Welcome to the Gripe Session. I am your host, George Wonica. I am a real estate broker with Wonica Realtors and Appraisers. I am the founder and curator of the website searchstatinisland.com. I'm also happen to be a certified real estate appraiser as well as mortgage broker as well, and a certified instructor too. And now that we've gotten my big boring resume out of the way, I want to thank you guys for tuning into the inaugural episode of the Gripe Session. Some of you may know I do a Facebook live session, also known by that name, the Gripe Session. And one of the things that was one of my goals for 2019 was to get a podcast out and running. I listen to a lot of podcasts myself in the course of my day. I listen to the Massive Agent podcast with my good friend Dustin Brohm. I've listened to the Modern Agent podcast with another good friend of mine, Rick Gonzalez, as well as the Agent Marketeer with Jason Frazier, and also another one, Real Talk of Real Estate with Chelsea Peitz, or Real, I think it's Real. Not Chelsea. Jeez Louise. I'm name dropping here on the first episode, guys. This is kind of what I do on occasion. I'll drop a couple of names on you. Crazy shit in real estate with my good friend Leigh Brown. I don't know if Chelsea's doing a podcast yet, but we're gonna have to get to the bottom of that. So, but anyway, these are some of my friends and quite frankly some of my motivators to doing a podcast, my mentors, if you will, which is something I think that a lot of people need nowadays, just to keep them on track and get them moving in a positive direction. I also don't want to forget another good friend of mine that also has the Onion Juice podcast, well, what's previously known as the Onion Juice podcast, now known as Agent Rise podcast, which is the godfather of the real estate marketing mind master summit, I believe, Neil Mathweg. But I've got a lot of friends of mine that have given me inspiration to go down this road and do this podcast. So I'd like to, quite frankly, start off this opening podcast by thanking each and every one of those individuals. I've been picking their brain and ripping their shit. I mean, let's be honest here. That's what this is all about, the Gripe Session, being honest and being positive, but also giving credit where credit is due. So that being said, this first episode is really going to be talking more about who I am. So quite frankly, I get it out of the way. What we're going to be looking to talk about is not just real estate issues, although everyone knows, or most people do know, that I am a realtor. I'm very involved in my association and in real estate issues. But we're also, quite frankly, going to take this podcast as almost like an episode of one of my favorite television shows, Seinfeld. Pretty much about nothing. We're going to look to talk to industry leaders in not only the real estate field, but attorneys, title people as well, for tips and strategies and techniques of what goes on in different municipalities. But we're also going to try to get some other people on this podcast. Now, when I say other people, that could be anybody. Quite frankly, anybody that agrees to come on to the podcast. So by the time this gets ready to hit, hopefully I will have some guests already lined up to come on to the podcast, so I won't look like a total and complete idiot and say, I'm going to look to have guests and don't have any guests. But that being said, hopefully some of the people will be interesting. If you like what you hear, just like I say it on the Gripe Session on social media and my YouTube channels, please tell people, let them subscribe to the channel. or to the podcast so you can listen. I'm going to try to keep them as short as possible because I'm sure, like myself, a lot of you guys do listen to podcasts to begin with, and sometimes the longer the podcast, the less opportunity you have to listen to it. You know, sometimes I listen to Gary V's podcasts all the time. Shout out to Gary V. I've turned into what I refer to as a disciple now of a lot of his stuff. But there are some times that when Gary has a very long podcast, you know, to the tune of an hour and change, it's difficult for me to listen to it all in one sitting. I've got to stop it and start it. But, you know, we might go there depending on how the guests that I have and how the conversation is going. But I'm going to try to keep these as short as possible so people can not only listen to my stuff, but also listen to the other people that I've mentioned and look to get as much out of it as humanly possible. If you have any questions on pretty much anything, whether it be real estate or topics you'd like me to talk about, I would ask you to send me an email at george@searchstatinisland.com. I will do my best to respond, and depending on what the topic is, I'll try to do a gripe session in regards to that. For those of you that watch the gripe session, you know I do like to have some fun. I do like to poke fun at certain things. I won't mention names of individuals if I get emails talking about things that frustrate us every day. I've done things like people taking up 2 spots in a parking lot, and that sort of thing. So we will talk about those things. We will make additions to the list, as my Facebook friends will know what that is. And again, this is just an introductory podcast, the first one that I'm looking to do. And I do appreciate all of the love and support that I have gotten from my social media communities. You can find me on Facebook at George S. Wonica, and as my Facebook fan page is George S. Wonica with Search Staten Island in it. You can find me on Instagram at GS Wonica, as well as Search Staten Island, also on Instagram as well. And on Twitter, I'm at GS Wonica, as well as I have a YouTube channel. So I'm going to look to, at some point, take this gripe session not only on the podcast section, but also look to do a video of the podcast as it's being done. So if you guys have any questions or comments that you'd like to hear me do, please feel free to let me know. And that being said, I want to welcome you guys to the Gripe Session podcast. Again, I am your host, George Wonica. I hope to see you guys all again soon, and hope that I'm able to provide some value to you. Thanks again, and listen, have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Gripe Session. Please follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.